hopefully you have had the chance to review some of the platform. The way that we've done these in the past is I will kind of fly through them so we don't bore you with kind of details of regurgitating what's there. I'll tell you why it's included and why I thought it was important to focus on it. And then we're going to go to the real structure of what we're trying to accomplish here, which is open it up to questions and a dialogue. And everything is fair game. It's helpful if you write the question in the chat before so Janie can call on you. We don't screen. If you don't have time to answer, or if I don't have time to answer it today or get to it, or at least try to have a conversation around it, we will email you separately with more detail around that. So hopefully that makes sense. Any questions on any of that stuff? All right, I see some nods. Okay, that's helpful. Okay, so the first couple pages speak to what we have done in Jersey City around education. Most of you are familiar with the fact, I assume, that the Board of Education and the school system is generally not controlled in most municipalities by the mayor and the city council. But in Jersey City, we have tried our best to lean in where we can in order to implement changes. And I feel like from a mayor council standpoint, Jersey City has done more than most. The paper in front of you and the stuff that we have done on the local level focuses a lot on special needs families, number one, and higher education. And that's very deliberate because I really do feel, and we should recognize when Governor Murphy does something well, we should recognize that. And when we think he doesn't do something well, we should call him out on that as well. But funding K through 12 is something that this governor and this legislature has done very well. They've been committed to it and they followed through on it. And I think they should be recognized for that. And the changes that I highlight here shortly focus more on things like the funding formula, things that aren't necessarily outwardly facing to the parents and the children immediately. And the reason for that is because generally people feel pretty good about their K through 12 schools here in New Jersey. They feel that it's a reason that people want to stay in New Jersey. It's a reason that people invest in New Jersey. And it's the type of thing that we want to amplify and build upon the successes and really not do anything to disrupt a good story on the K through 12 front. Not to say that things can't be changed and improved. We talk about that a little bit, but focusing a lot on the higher education and a lot on the special needs. In the Jersey City system here, we did a lot to expand in our recreation department, focusing on families with special needs, expanding programming. That's the first thing that you see here. We've also invested with partners on vocational programs for high school graduates, recognizing that not everybody needs to go or should go to college, or is it the right fit? Page 3 focuses on where we've been able to leverage dollars to benefit the schools. So we've been able to find opportunities at shared services at an unprecedented rate, whether it's cleaning out the lead pipes within the school system, which generally is under the purview of the Board of Education, but no child should be in a school system with lead pipes going into water fountains. So we shoulder the burden on that, or figuring out ways to offset costs around security guards or special services. We've done a lot of that, so we have a lot of familiarity. We could talk about that shortly as well. We've also done a lot to build schools in Jersey City, despite the fact that the state really hasn't invested in building schools at the rate that's necessary here in New Jersey for the growth. We've built traditional public schools. We've built county public schools, and we've built charter schools. We've been involved in all parts of that, and there's a list here on what they are and how they're working out in Jersey City. Library improvements, we put that as part of the education component because there's a lot of overlap between our library system and reinforcing that and the dollars that we've put into it and the expanded programming and the educational conversation that we're having today in this policy front. Going to page 6 is where we really start to talk a little bit about the things that I think are necessary to focus on right away in any gubernatorial administration in the near term. First of all, you talk about higher education and the cost of colleges. Even in-state tuition for our state universities are in many cases unattainable for families, even with help. You're looking at Rutgers pushing $40,000 all in room and board, and that's for in-state tuition. And the rate that these increase is 4 to 6% per year. And you do need some controls over that, being that there are huge investments from the state. I do think that some caps around where and how they grow in order to create and force more efficiencies within different universities is important. I'm sure there's going to be some questions around that. We'll have a conversation as well. College savings reform. We are one of the few states that put a cap on who and why and how people are eligible to save in 529 plans. Governor Murphy was the one who implemented first the college savings plans, which I think is a good thing, but it doesn't go all the way that it needs to go. In New Jersey, a family of four making $200,000 is certainly not at the poverty line, but they're also still thinking about saving dollars in order to live in New Jersey, because the affordability conversation is real. And the second part about how do you make affordable college for your children? And you need to provide all the necessary resources. It's a simple change as you talk about affordable colleges and universities and things that I think are important. And then on the next page, which is page 8 here, we highlight a lot about the county college. I think that's a missed opportunity that every year it seems like the legislature and the governor are cutting the resources to our county colleges. County colleges are more important than ever in today's world, where you have a more expensive 4-year university. The 2-year county college in each county is your runway or your ramp in order to an attainable 4-year degree. And I think that investing and being committed to that is something that this legislature hasn't done or communicated, and governor, and I think it's something that we will prioritize. Talking about the School Funding Reform Act, so there's a couple things on this. It hasn't been updated in a long time. We spoke to the ELC on that. There's an opportunity to create more transparency is first and foremost. How and why your school district is receiving more funds or less funds is a very opaque process to most people. We need to clean that up so it becomes more transparent to the public so that they could understand where and why those dollars are going. I think transparency is a key component of it. And then the second part is, how are you funding your special needs through that school funding formula? One of the things that we do highlight in here is that in 2008, when the first funding formula was implemented by Governor Corzine, there was a commitment to change and adapt the special needs component, and that was never revisited since then. So it's something that we would prioritize, and we have a track record on that as well here in Jersey City. Talking about special needs, support for universal pre-K. I touched a little bit on the special needs. On the support for universal pre-K, we had some questions from the press when we put this in here. Most of the policy initiatives that we rolled out over the last 6 months, the important thing to me is not only that they make sense to me and to you, is that they're attainable financially. Common question around that is, in what is the timeline that we would be able to achieve that? And the reality is that this is an area that it's going to be continued to phase in. We're going to continue the phase-in approach that Governor Murphy and the legislature currently undertake. It's in here, not because it's a new idea, it's in here because it remains a priority that we will continue. And then continuing to the mental health on the last page before we open it up to conversation and questions, which I think is the most important part of this. We talk about access to mental health for kids K through 12, and then of course recovery high schools. It's something that Senator Lesniak championed in Union County. It's something we want to build upon more broadly throughout New Jersey. So that's broadly speaking kind of the top level of kind of how we're approaching education. And as you can tell, it is detailed. It is, I think, what do we got? 14 pages. It's something that I'm interested in hearing your feedback and conversation and questions from here. And Janie, if you want to open it up, we'll take it and see where it goes over the next 45 minutes.
Sure. So I'm going to kick it off with a question from Jin Shin. She pre-submitted this question. She's online, but she's with her baby, so does not want to ask the question herself, but she's listening. Her question is, there has been more conversation around school safety. Parents are voicing concern, making sure schools are resourced and set up for any incidents that may occur. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think unfortunately we live in a world where school safety is paramount. I have a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 6-month-old. My 5-year-old was in a pre-K program, and we selected a pre-K program largely based on A, curriculum, and B, security. We thought a lot about that, which is something that I didn't think about or my parents didn't think about 40 years ago. So as a starting point, I think safety is the key component. Resources are crucial. And I think transparency with how you are funding your school district is a starting point in order to help people allocate those dollars more towards things that are important to parents. Ultimately, safety is part of that.
Great. Our next question comes from Sean.
Sean. Hey, Sean, I see you.
Hi, good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, where are you from, Sean?
Hi, I'm actually a teacher in the Woodbridge Township District. I'm
Okay.
finishing up my 21st year. Um, and I live in Somerset County and Monmouth County. I kind of split time, between the two.
Great.
And after looking over your education plan, one question that came to my mind, which maybe I overlooked it somewhere in there, but has been at the forefront of some of the concerns of the teachers organization in the state, relates to retention and retainment.
Yeah.
Since the pandemic, particularly, the state has had a challenge in both recruiting new educators into the profession, and keeping the educators we already have, which could run into a whole number of different challenges, down the road. I know our state organization has some strategies that it would like to try, to help with those matters. I'm just curious if
Yeah,
your administration would have any particular strategy in mind itself.
I actually had a conversation a while ago with Sean, who's the president of NJA, curious about his thoughts around the teacher retention, because he mentioned it in the fall that it was a priority, obviously. And they talked about training and grants and some of the different initiatives that they would look to roll out. Nothing was offensive to me. Obviously, everything seemed supportive because it was a priority, but nothing to me seemed like that it would solve the overall problem. I don't think anybody has come forward with a solution that really makes 100% sense on how we're going to get over that. I don't know. Do you have any suggestions, thoughts as a teacher on that?
I mean, I think it's there are a lot of nuances to it, for sure. I mean, there could be an economic downturn tomorrow. Nobody really wants that. But from my experience, whenever we've had recessions, that's usually been good, for the profession. I don't think anyone's, wishing that.
Yeah.
The culture of work, I think in general has changed a lot, since the pandemic. There are a lot of things I feel maybe drawing people away from the profession of teaching, in part due to the fact that it's a conventional 9 to 5, so to speak, kind of job, where people have to show up to work, Monday to Friday. So I think that, that's a much bigger issue, when you talk about things like, I don't know, maybe moving to like a 4-day work week and stuff, which I don't know how feasible, something like that is, that's all, kind of a pie in the sky in my mind, at the moment, at least. I mean, the state organization is talking about ending the tiers of the pension system, which I feel in part could help, if you have everybody working in the profession, subject to the same terms and conditions, of a retirement plan, which were all changed, under the Christie administration, in 2011. So perhaps that would be a start.
I'm not opposed to that. I wonder, just having the conversation with you, and I'll say what I said back then too, is that somebody who goes into the profession to teach is clearly somebody who's passionate about education, and they're not driven solely by money, right? They're driven by the mission of helping and educating. And I think today, post-pandemic, more parents probably appreciate the profession than prior to the pandemic, because a lot of them were tasked with homeschooling and their children at home and the challenges around that. So I think it changed a little bit of the view. I don't know. I'm not opposed to the pension reform conversation, but I don't know at the end of the day whether somebody is recruited and stays as a teacher solely based on that issue, right? I think it's a larger issue around the quality of life conversation and the mission around it. And maybe some of the starting salary conversations earlier can be more enticing to people, but again, what I said earlier, I don't know if anybody has put forward a plan that seems even like it will solve the overall problem on this, you know?
Agreed. It's definitely not it's not an easy issue. You know, that's for sure. Um,
I took notes on it here, Sean, and what I will circle back with you on it offline, and I will circle back with the NJEA as well to kind of see if they've had any more recent thoughts on it, because it clearly is a challenge. Healthcare professionals, nurses, teachers, those sort of professions, clearly there's a shortage and a need, and it's a challenge that nobody's really found a solution to.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean. Our next question comes from Jason.
Hi, Mayor Fulop.
Where are you?
Thanks for hosting these as always. Full disclaimer, I'm a Jersey public school kid all the way from K through 12,
Okay.
and I'm thankful for it. I had wonderful public school teachers who changed my life forever, literally what I do, what I studied in college forever. And actually, my government teacher is the one who was a JC resident at the time and told me about you, about this up and coming Mayor Fulop in 2011. So really thankful for my teachers.
All right.
At the same time, I had a lot of teachers and administrators that I observed that I was frankly shocked that they were in their positions. They just sort of threw in the towel. They weren't engaged. They seemed like they were just there as a job. They were dismissive. And I was in middle school when Governor Christie aggressively, cut costs, cut clubs, yelled at the teachers in town halls. And I'm thinking there has to be sort of a middle ground between, yelling at the unions and how powerful they are and taking the Governor Christie approach, but also being open to new ideas, new reforms that you lay out in your policy proposal. So my question really is, do you have any take on the teachers union? And if not, do you still expect to be able to carry through the reforms you've laid out with the union as powerful as is, resistant to new ideas?
Yeah. So it's a good question. I think running for governor, the executive experience that you bring as a mayor is paramount. You have a lot of candidates with a lot of different experience. The majority of them have legislative experience, and I don't think you can replace the legislative with the executive experience at any point. As the mayor of Jersey City, we deal with 6+ unions over the last 10 years, police, fire, public sector, Teamsters, that we've negotiated with, and we have experience with settling contracts. I think they would tell you that we're not easy. We don't give everything that they want, but we are generally very, very, very fair. We've been very good at hiring. We've been very good at expansion. We've been very good at promotions. We've been fair. But at the same time, we've been tough on discipline. And every single time that we open up a contract for negotiation, we know what our priorities are from a responsibility standpoint to the taxpayer and a productivity standpoint, and we go in laser focused on those things. Going back to the point about being fair, I will tell you one aspect of this over the last 10 years of personal experience. We were in a tough negotiation with one of our police unions. We thought what we were asking for was fair and responsible, and the leadership at the time, we didn't feel was articulating to the membership what we were saying. It ultimately went to binding arbitration, and in binding arbitration, the judge awarded us not only everything that we asked for, but he also awarded us everything that we asked for, plus additional things that he thought were helpful, because he agreed that the leadership at that time of that union wasn't being entirely forthcoming. Now, at that point, we were locked in to a better contract than we could have ever imagined with our police leadership. And I'll tell you, we reopened the contract with them because we felt like it was hurting our younger police officers unilaterally, and we didn't need those givebacks. I don't think there is another administration in the country that you would unilaterally open up a contract that is not necessary just to give things back because it wasn't things that was necessary to take. Why do I share that with you? Because I think that we try to be fair and responsible with our unions. And if I was afforded the opportunity to deal with the NJA from a legislative standpoint, I think my tone would be the same. It'd be responsible, fair, recognizing the important work that teachers do, and that they're valuable to our community and everybody respects their teachers. I don't think what Governor Christie did was helpful, but at the same time, we need to be rowing in the same direction and find common ground like I do here in Jersey City. So it's a little personal story on that, but at the end of the day, I've experience with this stuff, and I think that I'd be able to manifest that in a productive way as governor. Thanks, Jason.
Okay, great. Our next question comes from Kai.
Kai, where are you from? Can't hear Kai.
I know I heard her for a second. Kai, are you there?
Hi there. I'm sorry, I'm in my car. I'm in Homedale. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, Kai from Homedale. What's up?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I don't know if Kai has the best connection.
We can't hear you anymore, Kai.
fabulous. Okay, so I appreciate the idea of coming, direct to people. Oh boy, hold on.
No, we can hear you now.
Okay, I've kind of pulled over here. So I think what you're doing with
Sounded like she was going to say something nice. So
I know.
this forum is exactly what a lot of lobbyists and a lot of groups. Yeah, no, I mean, this is it for me, right? Our experience in New Jersey, we moved here for the schools and it did not go as planned. So, there on the one hand, we have
I think we're losing you. If you get to a
this
landline,
national ranking, and I had to dig into occasional schools, private schools, and a handful of public schools in wealthy. Oh no,
hey, Janie, why don't we?
is it not working?
We'll reach out to
It's-
Kai separately. Why don't we try somebody else?
Yeah. Kai, we'll come back to you because you keep going in and out. It's hard to hear you. Okay, I'm gonna move to Douglas.
Hello, I'm here in Piscataway. This is my son, Lewis. Say hello, Lewis.
Hey, what's up, Lewis?
He's in the 6th grade. And so his question was, why does the food at his school stink so bad? And I have to agree, when I look at the menu, it's not healthy. But I was just eating Fritos, so who am I to talk? Anyway, my question, what struck me this morning, I was volunteering at an organization that serves the entire state, and they have big school groups that come in to volunteer. And today a group walked in and it was all white kids, and they were great. They did a great job, of course, but there was not a single person that wasn't white in the group. And then other times school groups will come in and they'll be 90 or 90%, African Americans, and they're awesome, of course. They tend to actually be more diverse because they've got a lot of Latinos kids mixed in. And it's just very stark. And that struck me this morning after I had seen your education plan. So I'm curious about what can be done about those issues, and does that in itself mean that our system is, unfair or unequal? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. I do reference here the school segregation issue in New Jersey. There currently is a court case that is still pending on it. I don't think anybody disputes at this point that we have some of the most segregated schools in the country, which I don't know if everybody on this call realizes that, yes, we are talking about New Jersey, and New Jersey still has a segregation conversation that is necessary with regards to both housing and schools. I think that it has been a missed opportunity to correct that by the current administration. I think both governmentally on the right thing to do and politically for Governor Murphy, I think it's something that he should have leaned into, been more aggressive, and looked to correct it instead of using the court system. So the obvious question is, how do you go about doing that? We reference a couple things here. The first is magnet schools and county schools in order to increase diversity. Number one. I think number two is, using the levers of the state budget around good actors and bad actors. If a administration is articulating their goals, and the goals means to make our schools less segregated, We should be rewarding the players or the municipalities or the counties that are participating in that objective. And I think that whether it's housing or education, there are levers on that front from a financial standpoint that an administration can do, and we would be committed to doing that. I put it in here knowing that it's not the thing that everybody wants to hear, but the reason that we outline these policy papers is because we want to lean into not only the easy political issues, but the tough political issues. One of the things I said earlier, kind of broadly, is that most people in these policy papers for the gubernatorial campaign just really give broad strokes. You know, crime is bad and education is good and transportation is necessary. We're not doing that. And part of the reason is because we want to be meaningful and impactful as governor, and focus on segregation in schools is absolutely a priority for us, and it's in there for that reason. Thanks, Doug.
Okay, great. Our next question comes from Victoria.
Victoria, where are you from?
I am from, well, don't start me on where I'm from, but I am currently serving my 9th year on the Brick Board of Education in Ocean County.
Okay, great.
Our school has been devastated.
Yep.
We've lost hundreds of millions of dollars from S2.
Yep.
Over 300 positions. Our population, like every other district in the state, changes from year to year. We used to have 60 students who were what we defined as English language learners. Now we define them as multiple language students, and we have over 200. We have done our very best to bring out of district placements back into districts by providing thorough programs for our special education students. Just the cost of inflation is killing every school district. Healthcare costs, transportation costs, all the same. Brick was identified back under SU as a wealthy district that needed to pay more of its fair share. We lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue due to Sandy, empty storefronts, devastated neighborhoods. We are just trying to provide our students with a thorough and efficient education.
Yep.
What are you going to do about it?
Here, yeah. Okay. So first on the special education front, I know that's a big cost. We see that in Jersey City as well. One of the things we outline here is restructuring how the funding formula works on that away from a census approach. It is something that makes sense. It was something that would help you financially. It would help places like Jersey City as well financially, and a lot of the school systems that have a larger special needs population. I'm
sorry, Mayor. I love you. Just a second. I think the statewide special education population is supposed to be between 12 and 14%. Our district is at 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the current formula incentivizes different districts to do different things, which is problematic. We talk about some of that stuff in there. The second thing I just want to highlight is that that S1 legislation that you reference, or S2, I don't remember what it was.
S2.
The biggest loser in the state of New Jersey was Jersey City. We lost the most money, and in many ways, that formula was written around us, to be honest with you. I argued at the time, not that we were entitled to special aid, the adjustment aid. I understood the argument on that. What I didn't appreciate was the steep runway that they were trying to eliminate the dollars from us. So they wanted it to be gone in 5 years at the time. I argued that that was unreasonable. They settled on 7, which is still very, very difficult, and taxpayers have felt that. One of the things that I think needs to change that would help places like Brick and Jersey City, ultimately, in my personal view, is revamping the school funding formula, which I touch on. I think you need a committee to do that, but also transparency around it. when you're using terms and you're on the Board of Education, so you're more familiar than 90% of the people on this call, but you're using terms like fair and efficient education that they deem that you should pay more, you should pay less. And the obvious question to ask anybody on this call is why and what does that mean? And I don't think anybody on this call could explain that. Okay. And I think you need to have more of a transparent and clear formula on why there's winners and losers ultimately. And I think that would be helpful for everybody who you represent. Okay. And then a final thing is that S1 formula or S2 was focused on the adjustment aid, which they said that Jersey City was a big beneficiary of, if you
We
remember.
got none.
Yeah, but that was the focus of it at the time. And so that adjustment aid was a pot of money that when 2008 with Governor Corzine, I'm telling just everybody else to catch him up on this, when Governor Corzine put that funding formula in place, they allocated this adjustment aid to hold certain municipalities like Jersey City harmless. So they put this funding formula in place saying that this is how it should work, so everybody's fair. And then if somebody was to be hurt in that situation, they said, oh, here's an extra pot of money, and we'll allocate that to places like Jersey City. Okay. So it's counter to the objective of a funding formula, if you think about it. So I'm not saying the funding formula was right or wrong, but this pot of money on the side was problematic because it was essentially like this fund to inherently compromise the intentions of the school funding formula. Okay. So they eliminated that adjustment aid, as many on the Jersey City people or Brick or Tom's River are familiar with. And you saw these fluctuations in taxes over the last couple of years. Last year, they allocated prior to the election a special pot of money towards municipalities in order to, again, hold harmless in many ways. And then this year, just a week or 2 weeks ago, the legislature allocated another bucket, I think, of 40 some odd $1 million. So my point on all of that is that you are compromising and going back down the same road without a transparent and clear funding formula that you agree upon. And these are the rules. These are ultimately the rules. There shouldn't be an additional slush fund on the side that ultimately compromises the intentions of that. So those are things that I think we can fix. I can't tell you that you're going to get more money or less money. We still got an election to win and more conversations to have, but I am conscious of the problems with the funding formula, and we do want to think about ways to make that better.
Mayor Fulop, I just want to say that with the 2% gap that Christy gave us, more than half of our
conductor standing at the door. That door will not open.
Jamie, who's that?
That's final train conductor. The exit is train. Exit final stop.
Somebody doesn't have their phone on mute, but that's okay.
I just wanted to say that half our population is senior citizens here, and the idea that we could raise our cap 9% is inane. That would never happen in my district. That's not a solution. And that's what I want you to hear me say today. Thank you.
Loud and clear. Took some notes on it right here, Victoria. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Victoria. Okay, our next question is from Gabe.
How you doing? Nice to see you again.
See you, Gabe. Gabe, where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm from North Bergen. I graduated from Rutgers University in New Brunswick a year ago. And during my final years when they had the historic faculty strike. And so I was just wondering, what was your thoughts on Governor Murphy's handling of the strike last year? And what would you have done differently? As well as how would you handle if a similar strike were to occur during your term?
It's hard to answer that, Gabe, in a productive and honest way without being like a Monday morning quarterback. I wasn't in the room on those conversations, on those negotiations, on the details of who was saying what, who was acting reasonably, who was not acting reasonably. In my view, it would be hard for me to just give you an opinion from 10,000 feet and say, you know, Governor Murphy did a good job or a bad job on that. So I couldn't answer you. What I would tell you is going back to what I said earlier, out of all the gubernatorial candidates, there's only a very few of us that have had any experience with dealing with these sort of issues, labor issues, union contracts. And I happen to be in the small group that does.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. Our
Right,
next
Jimmy
question
Farrow?
is Deborah.
Hello, Mayor. How are you?
How are you, Deborah? How's it going?
Hanging in there, enjoying retirement. My question is, it seems that with the funding, you were talking about the funding formula, which I was sort of able to follow, but that also public school systems in this country rely heavily on property taxes. And there are many places where they don't have a high tax base. So you get unequal unequal funding, but also that school budgets have been going through the roof, especially as an example, Jersey City. My idea was everybody needs to pay, whether we're senior citizens, whether we have children, renters, whether we documented, undocumented, everybody needs to contribute to educating children. So my idea is, why not take a penny or two of the sales tax and dedicate that toward public school funding, in addition to, let's say, your funding formula and everything else, because this way everybody will pay. I don't have a problem paying. I have no kids. I'm a senior. I'm single, but I have no problem because somebody had to pay to educate me when I went to public school.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs to pay. And it doesn't seem like everybody does. It seems like there's a big reliance on taxpayers. And as a senior citizen, that's tough. I want to stay in Jersey City, but in the next 10 years, I may not be able to. But everybody needs to pay. And also I know you reduced abatements, although there are still some that are being given. That's another thing. Those people that have tax abatements and pay pilots, they need to pay too. So they buy stuff. Everybody buys stuff. So everybody will pay a sales tax. So why not think about taking a penny or two and dedicate that to education?
Okay.
Thank you.
So first of all, Deborah, on a totally unrelated, I know Deborah, everybody here for a long time, 10 plus years, 15 years here. I did a walkthrough of the reservoir today. It's almost finished next week. Just want you to be aware of that. Okay. Secondly, we haven't done a tax abatement, market rate tax abatement in 7 years. Okay. So I think for all extensive purposes, we've phased those out. Okay. Other than affordable housing projects. On the sales tax argument, just, I hear you around more people paying, but sales taxes are regressive taxes. They disproportionately hurt lower income people generally versus higher income people. So I just think it's a broader conversation. I also understand, I think that there's a conversation now happening in the legislature around restoring some of the cuts that Christie had to that sales tax. And I think some of those things would be determining on what we have in a year and a half, but that's where we are.
Well, Mayor, I'd like to have a deeper conversation with you, perhaps offline, if you get a chance. You have my email and everything, because it may be regressive, but everybody has to pay sales tax, whether it's I'm low income, okay, because I'm a senior. I live on a fixed income. But when I go to the grocery store, when I go somewhere, I have to pay a sales tax. So, forget regressive. We're educating low income kids, middle income kids, high income kids. Everybody has to pay. And sometimes, yes, it hurts, but everybody needs to pay, because otherwise you can't keep milking property taxes, because then people are going to start moving, and you're going to lose the people that are already here. Because I'm actually thinking about moving, and I've been here 34 years. So I don't want to go, but I may have to.
Okay. Gotcha, Deborah. Thank you. We'll do a couple more if that's all right, Janie.
I actually think we got to everybody.
Okay, so look, if we have a question that we didn't get to tackle that you have on your mind, you could shoot me over an email. It took some notes, teacher retention. Doug, I did make a note of the food quality, sales tax, special education, funding formula, Victoria's conversation around BRIC. I took notes of all that stuff. So I'm going to dig into that. I'm just going to conclude by saying thank you for taking the time to participate 2 days after Memorial Day on a beautiful night. I really appreciate it. We are building a campaign based on volunteers. If you find the interest or have the time or capacity, we could use the help, please sign up at stephenfulop.com and click the volunteer button, and that'll alert the entire team to get you involved. So that's stephenfulop.com, click the volunteer. With all that said, thank you again for joining us, and we will see you at the government reform one in a couple weeks, and that will be a good one, I promise. Okay, take care. Have a good one.